is right, and just by the enthusiasm in the room and the groups that are coming together and discussing how we can increase our commuter cycling, we're definitely at the start of something about to just pop, I think. So now we've got two speakers tonight, two guest speakers from Melbourne, and they're going to both talk about some initiatives to encourage commuter cycling, not from a changing policy perspective, but how we can change behaviour in our community so that we can encourage and inspire and empower more people to ride their bikes. So I'd firstly like to introduce Pip Carroll from the Squeaky Wheel, and she's going to talk about her wonderful initiative in Melbourne that encourages people to get on their bikes. So thank you, Pip.
Thanks to everyone for coming along. It was amazing. I'll come down there in a second. I'm just going to let everyone see me. Here I am. I'm about to head down there so I can change the slides. We've got lots of pictures to get through. But thank you all. Thanks to Outside the Square, Bendigo City Council, everyone's here, the Sustainability Group, and to all of you. Just, it's amazing to be a part of a community who is at that tipping point, and it's a really exciting thing to see. So yeah, I'm here to. I'll just disappear with you. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about cities and bike riding. No, I'm on film. Hi, Ben.
You're live on the web.
Live. So. Oh, thank you. Great. On here. That's probably, if that goes down there, I'll just read this in here. Okay. So yeah, this is me. And how do I get this into the screen? There we go. So yeah, I've only ridden a bike in 3 cities. In my hometown, Melbourne, there I am in the top right. I've ridden a bike in Berlin and I rode a bike in New York. And it was all purely by accident. I didn't intend to ride a bike when I was there. I just happened to, it was one in the shed or whatever it might have been. And I probably should also point out that I've never really considered myself to be a part of a bicycle advocacy movement or lobby group or anything like that. Apart from the fact that I'm pathologically incapable of remembering statistics, so I'm not really reeling them off like all those advocacy people are. I'm not really that interested in bikes. I don't really know what the parts are called. I don't really. Oh, too far away. Good. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really gotten on a bike with the intention of riding more than about 10 k's. I am the ultimate utility bike rider. I don't do it for pleasure. I just do it because I need to get somewhere. And I'm talking about myself, I suppose, to start with, to show that you can become an advocate for bike riding, even if you aren't interested in bikes at all. You just have to be interested in people, and you have to be interested in your environment, your city. And I think all of you, by just being here tonight, have shown that you can be those kinds of advocates too. For me, my interest has always been in the cultural environment that supports or prohibits riding. And tonight, I guess to support that, I'm going to actually talk about something that probably is a little bit unexpected. I'm going to talk about storytelling. What are the stories we tell ourselves about bike riding? Because infrastructure is important, but the journey to becoming a great bike city takes more than just infrastructure. The physical environment, expressed through infrastructure, enables change, but the cultural environment, expressed through representations and associations, that motivates change. So what is the story we collectively tell ourselves about bike riding in Bendigo? Or, for instance, I've learned about bike riding in Melbourne. And you know much more about Bendigo than I do, because I've never ridden a bike here. So I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about me and the story that was told to me and the way I learnt about bike riding. So in 2007, I was approached to produce a week-long festival celebrating bike culture, whatever that means. So the Bicycle Film Festival operates in dozens of great bike cities internationally, and it's more or less a celebration of cool people doing cool things on cool bikes. And so in Melbourne, there's lots of pretty bars and laneways, and I thought we could definitely find some culture at the back of them, and we did. And Melbourne's home to pretty much every kind of bike tribe that you can imagine. But they rarely intersect. And so what we did with the Bicycle Film Festival was set about writing all of these characters into one story to create a more powerful narrative in favour of the rider. So, we did, but then, so after 3 years of twiddling with niche cultures, I decided that the story that most needed telling was just the fundamental ordinariness of bike riding. Regular people doing regular things on regular bikes, which doesn't really sound like a very interesting festival, does it? But we went ahead and did it anyway. It's called Melbourne Bike Fest, and we did that for 3 years. And the aim of that was to celebrate bikes in everyday life. So every day that you can just eat a banana while you're doing it. So over the years, as the Squeaky Wheel and Bicycle Film Festival and Bike Fest, we've done lots of things. We've dressed up in ye olde clothing, on tweed rides, we've run training programs with young people from refugee backgrounds, we've engaged local comedians to deliver road music campaigns, we've hosted picnics, fashion parades, rock gigs, craft markets, comedy debates, parties, lots of parties. We've initiated a VIP bike valet parking service that travels around to different festivals and events. It's got a red carpet, you roll your bike up. And so the idea of this is that it sort of subverts or inverts the transport pecking order. So the bike rider becomes the VIP and they receive the priority treatment above everybody else. So that goes around to different festivals and events. It's very visible, it's very public, it's the first thing people see. And we've always tried to include children in our programming because, like Whitney Houston said, we believe they are our future. So we've attempted to drag bike riding away from sport and recreation and reposition it within the cultural life of the city. Melbourne, as you all know, is renowned nationally and internationally for the richness of its cultural life. And from what I know of Bendigo, you also have a similar reputation. You have amazing galleries, parks, architecture, historical interests, fashion, food, the list goes on. So you don't have to just have fantastic bike things, you already have a really wonderful basis for bike culture. So as a Squeaky Wheel, we saw all of those things as a fantastic story about bike riding. So we've attempted to write a story of bike riding that's inclusive and delightful, so simple, sweet and memorable that if everyone got to experience it, they'd never read the roads the same way again. We've tried to write a story in which the bike rider is a valued member of society. Like these people. They look really like nice people, don't they? So listening to this, you think, it's a bit of an extreme proposition. People that ride bikes are normal. They're normal people. Why would someone spend 7 years of unpaid time trying to prove that bike riders are normal people? Well, this. Now, I have no beef with roadies or lycra or anything racing, leg shaving, any other endeavours of this particular bike tribe, or the sport that they're engaged in, which is a sport. This photo is actually taken at an event that we produced, Port Melbourne Bike Fest in 2013. It is, I believe though, an image of the cyclist that's very important for everyone to consider. So what are these people doing? Certainly they're keeping fit, they're socialising, perhaps they're raising funds for a charity, they're definitely raising funds for their local bike shop. What are they contributing to the story of bike riding? Do they make it look easy, safe, fun, inviting, inexpensive, joyful, environmentally sustainable? These images are all, I'm not just picking these images randomly, these are all taken from events outlined in the Victorian Government cycling strategy as promoting cycling. They're actually identified under Direction 4, encouraging cycling, helping Victorians feel more confident about cycling and making cycling more attractive. Okay, so let me just respond to this as the average Australian, maybe the average person in Bendigo, I'm not sure. The average Australian, by happy coincidence, happens to be just like me, a woman in her late 30s with children. She works part-time and she lives more than 12 kilometres from the centre of the city. So these images need help by trying to encourage cycling. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You expect me change into the most uncluttering outfit imaginable, emblazon myself with logos, strap myself into a fast-moving death machine, and exercise with my ass at eye height, whilst dodging motorised vehicles liable to kill me, and that's supposed to make bike riding attractive. I don't even own tracksuits. Like, that just seems like hell to me. So, I mean, obviously I'm being a bit facetious. I'm also saying you probably shouldn't believe what you read in cycling strategies. That form of riding will appeal to some people, to the fit, fearless and brave. There's been lots of studies done about who are likely to take up cycling, and the fearless and the brave represent 1% of the population. And that's the kind of cycling that appeals to those people. But you've also got the 99, the other percent, and 60% I think are interested but concerned. And that's really our mission, is where do we find the interested but concerned? We don't find them at competitive cycling events at all. So, yeah, and for many people in that interested but concerned group, they're not exposed to other ways of being on a bike. I'm not sure what it's like in Bendigo. As I said, I've never ridden a bike here, but in Melbourne, unless you live in the inner suburbs, like, this is all you see. That's your image of a bike rider. That's what you think you do when you ride a bike. So let's consider some more images, this time from the media. These images appeared in The Age and the Herald Sun and Leader and local blogs to accompany stories about bike riding. I found them by Googling Melbourne cycling. You can try it with Bendigo cycling, see what comes up. These are the top results, and I'm showing them because I think they really effectively tell the story of how mainstream culture perceives bike riding. It's really easy for everyone in this room. We all know what we think about bikes. We love them because we're here already. But what we really need to think about is what everyone else who's sitting in their homes out there thinks about bikes, and how we're going to get them to get on a bike and start riding. And so these images, I think, that are perpetuated through the media are kind of what the collective consciousness holds about what it means to ride a bike. So, what have we got here? They look the same as each other, these people, but they're different to the rest of us. Most of them are dressed for a high-intensity workout. It looks like they think that workout might be dangerous. They're all representative of the typical Melbourne, in this case, commuter, in which the style, conventions and concerns of the athlete prevail. They don't really look very happy either. Here's some more. Causing trouble, running red lights, getting hit by cops, engaging in public nudity, giving it a finger, charming. I mean, it might be a different story in Melbourne, but there's a lot of antagonism toward bike riders. And that's what most people in the advocacy movement fail to see, and most people in the non-cycling world take it for granted. This is a quote from Joe Hildebrand. He's become more famous since he made this quote. He had a show on a few years ago called Shipsville Express. It was about, and this was a transport topic, and he basically said everybody hates cyclists except other cyclists, and I think a lot of people would kind of relate to that. And I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with the vitriol that exists for people who ride bikes, played out in various kind of online forums. If you've been on Fairfax Media, any kind of story, there's always heaps of stuff going on in the comment sections. And you do experience from outside car windows, definitely in Melbourne. Not sure what it's like here. I read an article a couple of years ago about a woman who sat her family down to break some news. And she said, "Mum, Dad, I've become a cyclist." And so I think that's a really neat way of describing the cultural state of the bike rider in Australian cities. And this might be true of Bendigo as well. Despite the best efforts of many, we're still somehow the other. We see each other as enlightened, we're all like down with it, but the people on the roads just don't see us at all. They don't see us as individuals. We're just nameless, faceless cyclists, people that they kind of pass on the roads and they get annoyed by. And why would anyone want to become someone which they cannot identify with, let alone give that person respect, consideration and a safe passing distance? So how can we change this? How do we create a story around bike riding that's more expansive than just roadies, hippies and fixies? How do we stop being reduced to stereotypes? How do we communicate the incredible complexity and diversity of a group of people who, apart from being on two wheels, have almost nothing else in common? How do we communicate that bike riders are just people people up high, people who play games, people with something to carry, hot, young, beautiful people, people in pairs, people with a load to bear, people who like to put things together and people who like to take things apart, and some people who just go their own way. So how do we write these characters into a story about riding a bike in Melbourne or in Bendigo or in any city that wants to encourage the use of bikes as an everyday mode of transport? Well, as Trevor suggested earlier, the road environment is critical. We need to make people feel as though the road environment is safe for them. We need to provide the kind of infrastructure that would be reasonably expected by any other road user. Without this, we remain in the gutter on our roads and in the margins on our culture. But we can't expect to wait for a complete network of separated bike lanes going from door to door. That's not going to happen. We need to recognise the human infrastructure, the people riding bikes, taking up space on the roads, and do everything we can to create supportive environments for them. We need to stop demonising bike riders and address the elephant in the room. A recent study found drivers were at fault in 87% of incidents with cyclists, and most did not even realise they had behaved in a reckless or unsafe manner. So for most people, women particularly, the major barrier is fear. The fear they're going to get hurt. And so we really need to do something to calm traffic, first and foremost. We need to stop blaming the bike riders for other people's poor decision making. In Melbourne, there's just blitzes on, like every 6 months. Let's go and get some bike riders, find them, make sure they have to pay. And I think it's really the wrong approach because it just sends the message that the bike riders are the problem, not the solution. We need to move away from big and invest in small. We need to be able to differentiate, write new characters into the story. Not heroes staging feats of endurance and determination, just unique and memorable individuals. If we want the next cohort to start riding, the interested but concerned, we need to change their mind around about what bike riding is and who can do it. We need to invest in women big time. So much of the bad behaviour that happens on the bike lane is down to the over-representation of men. Sorry fellas, we need to take the testosterone down. We also need to do everything we can to support women with children to keep riding, rather than putting them on the front page of the paper and calling them the worst mother in law, or Bendigo, wherever it might be. We've, at the Squeaky Wheel, run a program recently called Pushy Women. I'm just going to show you a little clip. Okay. Oh no, it's Safari. So yeah, the Push Women program is designed to create diversity encourages community cycling and is women centric. It's not female only, it's based on women. It's to encourage more women to ride more places, more often, and get more influence and whatever that is, whether it is something feel like they feel more confident, whether that is, taking them somewhere that they have never expected, whether that is sitting and listening to them talk about bikes, at pushing people who love them, people who hate them, people who've never ridden, people who never stop riding. Taking a little time to catch up. Anyway, I'll stop there because you get the idea. It's very feminine. There's nothing blokey, there's nothing sporty, there's nothing competitive. It's basically just like book club, but you haven't been bikes. And that's the whole thing. When you think about bike riding as a sport or as viewed through the prism of sport, it's male by definition. And that really puts a lot of women off. And so, yeah, with that comes the assumption that performance and competition and improvement and getting better at it, that all matters. That's really important. But if you strip all that away, you don't think about it as a sport, it doesn't matter how crap you are at riding a bike. It doesn't matter how slow you are. It doesn't matter how little you know about it. And I think for a lot of women, it's really important for them to know that they don't have to be really good at it. They can just do it, even 10 minutes a day, and they don't have to even care about it beyond that. They don't have to know what the parts of the bike are. So yeah, that's a really important thing that we've done, is tried to really create something for women that is almost looking at the bike just as a machine and how a different gender might interpret it. I'll just get back to the other thing, sorry. So a bicycle is just a machine. And something we've really done a lot over the years with Bike Fest and the Squeaky Wheel is to try and subvert the object as much as we can. People that are into bikes get really obsessed with them. They love them, they sort of start thinking about it, they start dreaming about it, they spend lots of money on them, they buy more of them. And it just becomes this kind of thing that almost then they become this kind of untouchable culture that you have to be really invested in to participate in. And I think we just, to really encourage the interest and concern, we need to just turn that around, make the bike just something that is meaningless. The bike holds no value, the machine holds no value, it's what you do with it, where you take it. And so we try to subvert the object as much as we can. The machine was invented to liberate us after all, not be worth more than our teeth. We need to recreate the village in a small city, or smaller than Melbourne, a city like Bendigo. That's something that's really possible. Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, said that when you visited Melbourne last year, people want cities that are clean, green, and have a village feel. So encourage the kind of bike riding you do in a village. You just go on the road and buy a baguette. You'd pop down, you'd ride 2 kilometres. You'd take a really short trip, very casual. You wouldn't ride between villages in a peloton. That's a totally different kind of riding in a city. It doesn't encourage a village feel in the city. So my tips, I'd like to sum it up with this image. 2 people in a warm embrace, united, looking forward, accepting of where they are, but ready to move on to the next stage. Number 1, be happy. Make your riding happy. Being happy is the gift of riding. We need to accept that graciously and celebrate that. So yeah, invest in small scale activities, local activities, grassroots initiatives. Find the people who are already doing the types of things you want others to do. Go to them, invest in them. Say, what do you need to make your activities more sustainable? What do you need to build what you're already doing? Be authentic. Start with what you have. You already have a Riders Festival. You already have food, amazing food. You already have all this culture. You just need to add bikes to that. You don't need to add a bike culture to it. Put valet parking at your events. Have rides to your festivals. Create ways that you can build bike riding into the everyday life of the culture you already have in Bendigo and is already uniquely yours. Find the people who have the skills you need and ask for their help. I'm really crap at social media. I hate it. I hate Facebook. I hate tweeting. But we've got an amazing person in our committee who does all that stuff because they love it, and I just get them to do all those things because it's what they're good at. I think it's really important when you're doing these things. Just find a passion and follow it. Don't wait for funding. It may never come. Just do it anyway. And don't leave the advocacy just up to the bike riders, because again, people who already ride bikes, kind of their brains have already shifted over into thinking about what you need. They're already into it. We need to think about people who aren't into it and bring them into the picture. Keep it personal. Make it really about the individual story, one person, one bike at a time, and think about everyone's individual narrative and how they can build a bike into their lives and never ever give up. So yeah, you don't need to, like as we all see with children, you don't need to know where the story is going to go before we start. We just need to start. So I congratulate you all for being on the tipping point, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Pip. There's a lot of food for thought there. Thank you. I'm sure we'll take a lot of those messages forward. While we wait, we will have time for discussion a bit later, but we're just going to go straight into our next speaker. While we wait for the presentation to come up, just turn to the person next to you to share reflections or key points you got out of that presentation. Over to you.
You're tweeting at the same time. Is that even you? I'll try. Are you gonna go there? Right? You're gonna stand there, right? Good.
Thank you, everyone. We've now got our next speaker, Andrew Palisade. He's from Bunch Drive, and he's going to talk about his initiative, which is a social media application to encourage group riding. So thank you, Andrew.
Sorry, I'm not going to need this. Thank you to Steve and Rob for organising this, and also for making change as well. I have to confess, I'm not a mammal, I'm a cobweb, crusty old bloke with an expensive bike. But I do have other bikes. I do have a mountain bike. I want to get a BMX. I want to get an urban bike that I can go around the city and I can just get a D-lock and put it somewhere, not worry about it. Also want to get a cyclocross bike. And so do a lot of my friends. I'm sort of very narrow with my bikes because I live in a city in a little apartment in North Fitzroy. Makes it a little bit hard to have 4 or 5 bikes. So unlike my friends, but we all do like riding. We're roadies, but we do have other bikes, and not primarily about going out there wreaking havoc. I do have hairy legs at the moment. That'll change in 4 weeks. Start of spring. So why we're here today? Well, we're all here talking about Bendigo. This is Bunch Rides. We're actually a startup. We've been building for 2.5 years. We've just gone live in the App Store and Google Play this week, so that's a pretty big achievement. And that's why I got the notes today, because we're sort of still mucking around the site. But it's all about making Bendigo a world-class cycling city. And I guess how do you achieve that? And there's been some great stuff said today and about what you're saying about, it is about community, about tribes. But, how does that all start? And it all starts really by creating a cycle-friendly region. Now, cycle-friendly, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's through business, whether it's through tourism, it's where someone comes to the region and they feel, hey, it's a great place, I want to ride my bike. Also, secondly, it's all about tourism. Cycle tourism is massive. There's a company called Exodus that they're actually part of a bigger tourism chain in the UK. They've actually set up a dedicated shop or an office in Melbourne because the cycle tourism is massive, cycling holidays. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and like I said, there is that tipping point where it does go mainstream. I think we actually have reached that tipping point. I thought we reached it a year ago. In terms of the hockey stick, the J curve, I think we're sort of on the upward trajectory where it actually does start going outside the major cities. And it's also about encouraging people coming to Bendigo. I mean, I came here 4 weeks ago, had a great ride. I went in Lycra, went with Eddie Barker, he's just sitting down here on the couch. But it is all about experiencing the wonderful landscape that is in Bendigo. A lot of you guys take it for granted. Green, just openness, open space, low traffic. 5 minutes out of town, you've got this wonderful environment to ride in. Well, it's all about bringing people from outside Bendigo and also the people within Bendigo experiencing it. So we all know about social media. I mean, it's, going back to the 20th century, it was all about paper, it was all about TV, radio. It's all moved now to digital. We all know these icons. I haven't put Instagram on there, that's the latest one. But this is how we communicate in the 21st century. This is what it's all about, is social media. We spend all our time looking at that little screen on our phone, unfortunately. So what it's all about, Bendigo here, just thinking outside the school. No? Okay.
Just hold it down a bit.
It's all about thinking outside the square. So Bendigo here. You're very familiar with it, but how do people find out about it? So it's all about using the existing, social media that is within the city of Bendigo. Once again, it's all about finding the rides within Bendigo. You can see those little icons there, and it's also about using existing social media to actually extend to outside Bendigo. So it might be even the Kangaroo Flat, or it might be further afield, Castlemaine or Castlemaine, I don't know how you pronounce it. Or it could be Melbourne, or it could be even thinking outside the square, thinking outside Victoria. So it could be encouraging people outside the state or even outside the country to visit Bendigo, because ultimately it's all about tribes. That's what really drives us to do anything in life. We all know AFL. This is the Adelaide Oval, and the thing about football is a great example. It's all about tribes. Everyone comes down to the common denominator. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter where you live. Everyone comes together to actually enjoy a sport. And the AFL does it really well in terms of multi-channel, in terms of getting all the Twitter, people sharing conversations, talking about the footy club. People have travelled to another state, Adelaide, to actually watch their team. It's all about being part of the tribe. But the good thing about cycling, good thing about cycling is, unlike a footy, I'm not into footy, sorry, but I can imagine that if you take a footy, say you're really into football, football predominantly is a passive sport. You watch it on TV. Oh, sorry. You watch it on TV. How many people can get a football and say, I'm going to come to Bendigo, I'm going to go and kick the football for the local footy club because I want to do it on Saturday afternoon. Whereas with cycling, I can go and find a group, I can bring my bike to Bendigo, and I can partake in a lovely coffee. Sorry, once again, this is Lycra, so excuses for everyone else. But that's what it's all about. These are tribes. This is the Lycra tribe, but there are all different tribes that are part of cycling. Maybe it's mums and dads going for rides, exploring the winery and so forth. So it's all about finding these tribes. And all those tribes fall into different categories. Yeah, you've got road, but there is off-road, there's the urban as well. And it's all about documenting these areas where people can go riding. And once again, it's also about trying to have it augmented in the one area of social media where you can actually see rides, you can see stats, the Lycra people, and you can also see the conversations, because ultimately social is what drives people when they're passionate about something. It's what drives football. When they go to footy, all the conversations are always about what they're passionate about. So you need a way to actually bring all those conversations together and find people in those communities and have those engage with those people as well. So this is Bendigo. We all know where Melbourne is. It's only an hour and a half away. But luckily now we've got great GPS devices. It's really easy to actually find where rides may be, where the communities are in terms of cycling. And it's also about making sure that when you've got an area that it is quite welcoming. So you need a way of people being able to facilitate that information and for them to get that information easily. And now we use different devices. As I said earlier, most people use a phone, but it's all about screens. We spend all our time looking at screens, so it's always multi-screen. But it has to be a way that you can easily share that information, share being part of the community, engage, because ultimately, for Bendigo to do well, people have to feel, okay, I'm welcome there, it's cycle-friendly, and I can actually see these conversations, I can participate in it. I'm not just an outsider. As Eddie did, he welcomed me, but without me actually having a conversation on the phone, I need another medium where I can actually have those dialogues, have the chats that I know as a Melbourne Lycra rider, or maybe I want to come here and check out the wineries, I want to check out that lovely rail trail that you're building at the moment. How do I find that level of information? So it's all about really is about building those communities, building those rides. They may be just a ride along the rail trail, going along your wineries, might be exploring the area through regular rides. And it's also about using the technology which we have at the moment. We've got great technology, good, like it or hate it. I know everyone, may like Facebook, may hate it. I'm not a big fan of Facebook myself. But ultimately, social media is not about you feeling compelled to have to use it. It's not about the city of Bendigo and think, oh my God, yeah, we're going to go there, we're going to tweet about this, we're going to talk about that. It's all about getting engaged because you're passionate about cycling. You're passionate about wanting to participate in this great sport, even, at what level. It doesn't matter what level you're doing it at. So it's all about creating online experiences. It's not about pushing products. So we're changing the way now that the media, the way that social media is changing the landscape. Before you have a billboard, you have TV, you're shouting at people. The great thing is, like footy, people love, at the end of the day, the AFL is a business. It's a business with little subsidiaries, but people are passionate about the foundation of what it is, which is football. Same way cycling, people are passionate about cycling, so you can create these communities where you're not pushing content, you're going online, going onto social media, whatever the platform may be, and you're actually talking about your riding, at whatever level you're riding at, you're talking about the area where you're riding, you're sharing those fantastic experiences, ones that make us get up in the morning and go riding, or whatever time of day you go on your bike. And creating different forums to target different groups. And you can link to traditional social media, so Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. And it's also about monitoring the feedback, so you can actually see what's happening in these areas, see what people are talking about Bendigo, monitoring the conversations and the tone of what's happening, and trying to make it so you're really chatting, you're really talking to that market or talking to prospective people outside of Bendigo or within Bendigo, so they're more likely to want to come to Bendigo and experience the great cycling that you have here. So here's some slides that will show some ideas to think about. I mean, you can have rides that showcase the wineries or some of the scenic areas that you have here. Also promoting where you can stay in terms of hotels and cafes, and that's where all the Lycra people go. I get some. Sorry.
Chris, can I have a drink of water, please?
Sorry. Sorry, my mouth's a bit dry. Also, I'm sorry, there is a little Lycra in this one. There is and also about the businesses that actually are cycle friendly. So that's what's going to make a big part of promoting Bendigo. Is people go, hey, here's all these businesses that actually support cycling. They've got cycling facilities that I know if I bring my bike, I'm welcome here. Also bike shops. Bike shops are very integral. Enjoy. It's out of pewter too. It's like, cool.
Very regal.
There's work coming up from Melbourne. This is very good. And lastly, it's all about showcasing. That's a lot better. The rail trails and bicycle infrastructure that you've been talking about. Because, sorry. Okay, and look, there's some more ideas. I mean, what Trevor spoke about was that amazing, ride to school, capability. Also about using the transport, they're getting more people on bikes in the area. So Bendigo is really well positioned because you're at the start. Unlike Melbourne, it's heavily congested. It's a real fight to actually try to reinstate a lot of infrastructure. We're moving that way now. But Bendigo, you've got a clean slate with that lovely road up there, so you can actually be a leader nationally in actually having a city which actually has cycling thoroughfares all the way through. And that will coordinate too women's cycling, because if they feel safe having a segregated lane or having dedicated paths, that'll actually promote more cycling. And also mature age. I'm not sure what mature age is these days. I mean, some people might say mature age, I don't know, but it's getting people that are in the senior side of 40 or whatever more onto bikes. So, because
Just made some enemies there.
Pardon?
Just made a few enemies there.
I know. I'm over 40, I can tell. Okay, and lastly, what we offer. So I'm just doing a bit of self-promotion here. We're a social media platform that with bicyclists for cyclists. And I don't know, I'm looking, I should know what stuff. And we've got a website, mobile app, and also suitable for all riders. So we're not just Lycra, we do, we are targeting, you look at our website, we're targeting probably the urban rider, and predominantly just initially, and also women cycling, because that's a global phenomenon, is the growth of women in cycling, and also trying to making it easy for people to search. So if you want to, there's an actual ride that I did with Eddie 6 weeks ago, and this is what you need to showcase to people like me and non-Lycra people as well. I'm just using Lycra as an example. That this is what you have in Bendigo, and people need to see this, see the winery, see the amazing landscape. An hour and a half from a major city. People travel to Adelaide, they travel overseas to go riding, Lycra or non-Lycra, whatever it may be. You've got the opportunity here today in Bendigo. So that's what we're trying to help promote for our platform. And just as to get things started, I've actually created a bunch ride, or it can be, you're welcome to come on a mountain bike on Saturday at 7:45. Where's the place, Eddie, again? Sternberg Street Roundabout. Download the Bunch Rides app, you'll see it there, go to bunchrides.com and follow the conversation. So we're like Twitter, we've got our own Twitter, so you can actually see what people are saying. Let's put it to the test. Let's see if all this stuff, we can grow Bendigo. We can start it today, we can start it tonight. Go home, download the app, and let's start a movement. Get people, people that follow me in Melbourne, we'll see that, hey, I've gone on the Bendigo ride and I can start writing about it. You can start saying, this is really cool, come here. A lot of people down in Melbourne would love to come here. So just download the app, have a look, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and I think it's great because I think what we can see here is what that provides is we all know there's a strong cycling network here, and what this potentially could provide is a place to make it accessible for new people tuning into this bicycle network, and that could be a really good thing, and also creating new bicycle networks as well amongst our neighbours and our friends and any new groups as well. So thank you very much, Andrew. We're now going to have a 10-minute break, so if people would like to go and have a drink or grab something to eat, and we're going to be back for the second half is going to be more around discussing and thinking about, well, what can we do given, what information we've been showcased tonight, what can we do together to create a cycling city in Bendigo. So have a break and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
And that is a wrap. Hope you enjoyed it. We sweated bringing this one together tonight. Internet was not being friendly, but we got there.